Hey there, YouTube friends, maskedbandit here. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I always do appreciate it. We are back in Summerdale. In episode 1, it didn't have a name, but today it does. Summerdale Amusement Park. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I mean, I knew you already knew the name because I already named it. Anywho, I'm back. It's been a while since we had a Planet Coaster video. I just got back from vacation a little less than a week ago and hopped right back in and got to work. I want to get this project up and running. And the first thing we're going to be working on today is a restroom building. And if you think this is ugly, don't worry. It's not sticking around for very long. I wanted to do something generic, but this ended up just being blocky and ugly. So I got rid of it. I'm deciding I'm going to be using a lot of clapboard, a lot of, that material right there, and a lot of corrugated roofing, the custom roofing that I've done in previous projects. Probably going to do a lot of that for this project, so just get ready for that. Also, some people on Bronation have been sharing that you can sink the bathrooms down by quite a bit, and it doesn't really affect the way it looks from the outside, so you don't have to have these huge, like double tall bathroom stalls. So we'll be doing that for the restrooms after this one. But anyway, yeah, I am back. I was out of town for several weeks, but we still had some videos on the channel. Past 10,000 subscribers in the time while I was away, which is so fantastic. I am so honored and so grateful. I know I haven't had a chance to talk about it yet, so I want to take this time, if you're watching this video, thank you for your subscription. If you aren't subscribed, consider doing so. Keeping that number up increasing. It means a lot to me. I know this isn't a full-time gig for me, and I know I'm sporadic, but the fact that I have 10,000 people that think what I do is good enough to subscribe to me is just, it's humbling. So thank you if you subscribed, whether you subscribed today, a week ago, or years ago. I do appreciate you. I really, really do. So with that being said, a 10,000 video thing I'd like to do. I wanted it to be a coaster. We'll see how much time I have. It might be a little bit later, but I do want to do like a celebratory, like just one-off coaster thing, kind of like what I did for the 1,000. I did a hyper coaster, and I think my my coaster skills have improved since 1,000 subscribers. So I'd like to do another one, not hyper coaster, but a different kind of coaster. Anywho, yeah, my trip was fantastic. Got to spend some time in Cedar Point, meeting up with several people. Hopefully you've already seen the Cedar Point vlog. If you haven't, check that out so you can get some better idea of what that trip was like. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, other than to say that it was a great time, and I really did enjoy hanging out and meeting all the bros, Mike and Rubel and Commando Santa, Kinderly, John T, and then all the fine Bronation people, Silent Member and Redline, and all the people that were there, 404, Beyond Drew. There were about 20 of us, I think, that were there. It was such a great day, even though the park didn't necessarily cooperate. But again, check out the vlog if you haven't already to find out more of what I'm talking about. So let's talk Summerdale. You can see I've reverted back to this style here for this restroom building. I'm sorry to say that this is not the most exciting episode. We got a lot done in the first episode, like ride placement and a coaster. We do not have any coasters. We're doing this building, and we're going to work on the station for the coaster, and we're going to dress this area up. I do want you to know that at the end of this episode, you're going to see me plop some game stalls and stuff, though they're no longer there. I've been really working hard on the layout of this park, and I've ripped up the paths and rearranged things countless times. I've actually recorded enough footage for another episode, so after I'm done with this one, I'm going to hop right back in and record the next episode. But what that means is that there are already some major changes to the map. Well, not major changes, there's some major changes to the layout, and there's a lot more built than I'm showing off here, and I had to be really careful to hide it for the cinematics at the end of the video. So yeah, if you think that the layout's a little funky, just hold tight and wait for the next episode where you'll see a much more finished product as far as where I want to go with it. So one of the things that I'm really trying to do with this park is think about spacing and conserving space and using space to the utmost of its efficiency, because we're working in a kind of small area. However, I was chatting with Mike and layout stuff, and I think I need to pull everything, not everything, but I think I need to start shrinking towards the center of the mat to leave myself some room for some backstage areas. I do still want this to feel like a realistic park, and so we need to include backstage areas. And I started with wanting it, but not necessarily planning for it. So it's kind of hard to go in and start planning about that stuff from the very get-go. So what I ended up doing is kind of giving myself a basic path layout and branching off from there and thinking about where I want to fit things in and all that. So yeah, it's been kind of interesting trying to get the layout together. But here we are on the coaster station. And this is the majority of today's episode, is getting this station nailed down. I wanted it to feel older because this is the older ride in the park. I wanted it to feel I wanted it to feel classic, I guess, is a good way to describe it. So it's kind of vintagey. I use some of the vintage pieces. It actually kind of resembles the wooden coaster in Surfside, which is not a problem at all. I kind of like that. It's kind of a connection, because this is kind of the same idea, just in a different place. Here I'm battling with terrain and the coaster, and I realized I didn't make the coaster high enough to sneak the queue underneath. So that's what we're trying to fiddle with here. What I end up doing is just raising the whole coaster, because it came really, really close to the ground in some places. So it would just be easier for me to raise the whole damn thing. And so eventually we get there. So you can see here, enough of this. So we just raise the whole coaster. And it works just fine. So what I ended up doing is putting a piece of path under the station once it cleared, and then lowering the station just to the point where it was going to give me the red, the obstruction, or it's going to give me the obstruction notification. So I got it as low as I could, but still give myself enough clearance, and I don't think it looks too bad. I like it. So struggled with the layout of the queue and still kind of fiddling with it. It is not complete, even though it looks complete in this video. Like I said, I've torn everything up. So but yeah, I struggle a lot with stations sometimes because they just always look like big boxes. It's really hard with the way the stations are made in Planet Coaster. They are so wide. There is so much wasted space. After taking our trip to Cedar Point, just really paying attention to the stations, they are not nearly this big for any coaster. The loading platforms are nowhere near this big. They're just, it's kind of unruly, and it totally throws off scale. So the goal here is to kind of make your station and then try and hide how gargantuan it is compared to everything else around it. But I did want to add some fun details, even though it is kind of large. I think that helps with it looking less. Not that it makes it look less boxy, but it makes it look like an interesting box at the very least. So hopefully I made an interesting box for my station. Yeah, so speaking of Cedar Point trip, man, I've been so inspired after our trip. And I'm going to be using a lot of influence from Cedar Point in this project, specifically some stuff with the chairlift. I don't even know if there's a chairlift in the park at this time of this recording, but there is a chairlift in the park, and we're going to be doing some things very similar to the Cedar Point Sky Ride, if that's what it's called. Yeah, we'll be doing stuff like that, and just that generic. I want to go with that super generic look with the basic materials. I kind of want to keep my material palette kind of condensed, kind of smaller, just because I figured that would help me, one, convey the sense that this is all just kind of utilitarian more than stylish. Like, this is going to be kind of older, the Skylift ride is going to look kind of retro, but then everything else is probably going to look much more modern. But these roofs are going to be pretty uniform throughout. We're going to use this roof style pretty much, not exclusively, but more often than not. Yeah, so I just want to keep my material palette kind of simple for this project. It'll also help me make sure I get things done. So, because I do want to finish this in a timely fashion. Speaking of that, one of the things I am doing with this project is I am going to be using workshop items, both in-game things that were built with in-game pieces. Like, people make, like, I have like a map cart that I am borrowing. And I also am borrowing, I'm going to borrow an entire coaster from Fisherman and, who was the other person? It was Fisherman. Oh, and he teamed up with somebody, and I can't remember it now. Let's see if I can find it, who it was. I feel so bad now. I'm like, I don't know. It is, I'm going to be using it's in Fisherman's Kaleidoscope Piers, which if you haven't checked that out, you need to. It's the Stingray custom supported Vekoma Boomerang by Fisherman and Dijui. Dijui? I probably said that wrong. But I'm going to be using that coaster in a later episode. So yeah, those are workshop things, but I'm also going to be using some TMTK items, some thememakers toolkit items. The stability seems to have been improved. I don't know just how great it is, but it's better than it was. My game doesn't take forever to load now that I have, a handful. I have a pretty decent collection of workshop items, thememakers toolkit items. Like I have the alphabet set, and I have some other things. I have some poles, and I have some canopies, and just basic things, nothing too major. But I am using all that, and not that I don't want to do it myself, but I think for ease and for completion, I want to have a completed park. So, and there are so many great things on the workshop that I want to show that I think deserve to be showcased. Like here, these are N7's tree set. He just released those. They're #1 on the workshop as of this recording, as they should be. They are fantastic. If you don't have these, you need to go download them right now. They are all in-game pieces. It is not thememakers toolkit. He's taken roses and bushes and kind of like made trees out of them, and they're recolorable, various shapes and sizes. It's a really useful set. Little piece heavy might bog your game down a bit if you use them too much, but I do recommend though that set. It is awesome. I am also using, you might have seen in the first episode, I'm using Max Magnus's path covers. He made like path plugs for when you have those little corners in your pathing. He made with in-game pieces. He made covers for every path type in the game. So if you sync them just right, they blend really, really well with the in-game path types. So I'm using that set. So yeah, those are just a few of the things. What I've done, I'm rambling. What I've done is I've gone ahead and I've made a collection on the workshop. And if I did my job, it's in the description in the link below. And that will be on every episode, that workshop link. And it will include, hopefully, everything I've used. And as I use something from somebody else, I'll include it in that workshop link, in that collection. So by the end of the series, you can there's that set, that path cover set. You can have access to all the pieces I've been using. So in the back of the restroom here, I figured we have some extra room. I don't know how realistic this is, but I liked the idea that they had to stick a staff gate in the actual queue. Space being a premium. And what this is going to be is it's going to be like a garage where you would store some different signage and maybe some extra fencing and stuff like that. So we're going to make this be like a little extension of the restroom, a garage area, and that's what we're going to do. So anyway, yeah, that collection. The one thing it doesn't include yet is the park map. I will get you a blank map. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you the entrance and then just an empty park, and you can do the rest. And if you don't want the entrance, you can just delete it and build your own. I'd like to dress up the streets a little bit more before I get that out to you, though. The streets are pretty bare bones, unless you don't care and you want to decorate the streets to your desire. Let me know in the comments, do you want me to make the streets a little nicer, or are you happy with it as it was in the first episode? So I will do whatever the majority seems to want there. So anyway, after we dress up this little area here, I'm actually glad I got this done in this episode because it kind of shows the direction I want to go. Everything else in this file is so incredibly raw right now that it's hard to see the vision, but I want there to be this sense of lush plantings, even though it's a tiny little park. I want it to feel grown up and grown in, and that's kind of what I'm going to be going for. So these games are no longer here. They're gone. There's some other things in their stead, so... But we're going to use a lot of Midway games. A little park like this would probably have tons and tons of Midway games. So we'll be using them whenever we have some room. But yeah, this is just about the end of the time lapse. We're going to jump into the final cinematics. So I hope you've enjoyed. And like I said, the next episode is right around the corner. I've already got it mostly recorded. So I'm going to hop in and do that. And so if you did enjoy this video, please go ahead and hit the like button. If you aren't one of those 10,000 plus subscribers, consider doing so you don't miss anything. And Leave some feedback below. Tell me what you like, what you want to see improved. And with all that being said, have yourself a great day, great night, great whatever. And I will see all of you for the next episode of Summerdale Amusement Park. Take care, everyone. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.